Hey everybody, today I am going to be reviewing Supergirl. This was directed by Craig Gillespie. I hated Superman from last year, I won't lie to you, and I didn't like any of the creative choices that James Gunn made for that particular version of Superman, so I wasn't really looking forward to Supergirl either, naturally, and not to mention it doesn't have the greatest reputation online as of now. Overall, I do not think that Supergirl is as solid of a film as Superman, and I'm talking about, of course, the 2025 version. And I do not think that it makes as bold of a statement. But quite honestly, I preferred it to Superman. Now, make no mistake, it is not a good movie, at least by my estimation. In fact, the phrase that kept popping up in my head as I was watching the movie throughout was wasted potential. But overall, it was the concept of this one that kept me intrigued and it kept me going so far as the possibilities were concerned. And there were aspects of this movie that I kind of enjoyed. First of all, I really enjoyed the character of Supergirl here. I think she's great, and I think the movie instantly wants you to know that, she's a misfit in the superhero world, and so it has this Joan Jett, I don't give a damn about your reputation kind of spunk to it. I kind of like that she's this rogue rebel who's standing in the threshold, very John Wayne style, where she feels, very lost about her place in the world. And I love how they try and contrast her with the Clark Kent character because, he's the star child and he's Mr. Perfect guy on the cover of the Wheaties box type of vibe, and she's over there being the emo problem child. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, and it's a great angle. Quite literally, the very beginning of this movie, Supergirl's dog, Crypto, he takes a piss right on the newspaper with Clark Kent's face on it, or I should say Superman's face on it. The movie is setting the stage for a standard and an attitude that you depend on it carrying all the way through the movie. Here in the story, Supergirl has this past that she has to contend with, that she remembers about her home planet compared to Superman, and so she's dealing with a lot of past trauma that is eating away at her because she cannot face it. And so she rejects her powers and she goes to areas of the galaxy where she knows that her powers won't work, and that way she can feel the experience, the effects of alcohol, drugs, whatever, so she can get punched in the face and bleed. She just, she wants to feel something. Obviously, she's a drunk, she's crass, she's rude, she's a chaotic mess, and yet you want to follow her. I was on board with this movie for the first act of it, and a lot of it was the actress who played the main character, Millie Alcock. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, as Supergirl. She has this very flinty, casual quality to her, and this irreverence, this humor that I think she carries off quite well. Even when the humor doesn't land, she is always believable with it, and she has a charm when she says it. I just feel sad for her as an actress because she deserved a movie worthy of her, and this character of Supergirl, I think, deserved a much better movie. The direction, the editing, the art direction, while there's merit at times, I think it was all severely lacking so far as big blockbuster spectacle is concerned. I think this movie needed to have a danger factor to it compared to Superman. It just does because of the angle that they are choosing. And so you want to feel like, you have this freedom where you're riding on a dirt bike, but no, this is more like kiddie bike with the training wheels. I look at something like Deadpool. We know that character probably overstayed the welcome a bit, but you have to think about when that character was initially introduced. There was this willingness to take a risk with the character and put a certain spin on it, shift the superhero genre in a different direction. And I think if you want to put a spin on something like this, I think you need to take the time to really, spike the edges. And I'm done with the concepts. It's more just the execution that I struggle with. And when it comes to the way the movie looks, the world building, it is very Mad Max, and it has this bucket of bolts kind of quality to it. And I actually think some of the art direction there is nice, and some of the cinematography I think is a lot sharper than Superman was, but it still feels like second-rate influence of Mad Max or even Cowboy Bebop, we could say. But I do like that it leans into the camp of Mad Max well enough. I mean, Jason Momoa is in this movie, and he is over there looking like the fifth member of Kiss. He is having all kinds of fun here, and he is great to see, but this movie just doesn't give him enough scenery to chew on, and so he doesn't get his moment to sashay, you know what I mean? I like the idea of this drag queen campy world, but mixed with this jarring violence, and it also has, again, that rusty, clunky quality to it, but I think they needed a little bit more oomph to it. Like I said, we needed some hot pinks, some reds when it comes to the fighting. We need to really feel those sucker punches, the sound design. You can give me a blaring needle drop soundtrack and we're good. I don't think it's that complicated. But again, this just isn't convincing enough to feel fresh and fun. It is more of a slog. And it's a slog because there's just not that much tension in the movie. And I think if you're going to have an anti-hero like Supergirl here, I think you should really use them, test them, show their ugly sides and how it actually contributes to the conflict more instead of how they leave it, because here it seems more just like a peripheral annoyance. It might have been nice if she resisted her call to adventure more in the first act of the movie so that when it's finally her time to take action, step up to the plate, it feels like a pleasant surprise. Because the big transition where she finally becomes Supergirl and gets to wear the outfit, it should feel euphoric, but here it kind of felt like a whimper. I looked up the writer to this film, and the only previous work it seems that they've done is short films, and I can tell because a lot of the characters here, or most of the characters, are just severely underdeveloped. Feels like Supergirl's motivations, her objectives, they kind of fizzle or she gets lost along the way. So the stakes don't always feel clear and they don't always feel high. And so when the stakes don't feel high, the action sequences that are supposed to bridge the gaps between all the major scenes, they start to feel repetitive and tedious. The thesis of this movie, like I mentioned, it's about discovering your identity, but it's also about contending with your past and seeing how you want to deal with revenge. And, this is a chance, again, to really steer things in a more dark, a more cynical direction for a character like Supergirl. And they do. But again, it felt half-baked. It felt like a second-rate version of Furiosa, the end of Furiosa, a Mad Max story. Because they have a similar thing where it's main character and antagonist, and there's this big facing of the minds. But there, you have an outrageously memorable villain in Chris Hemsworth. Whereas the villain here, even though he can be kind of fun, he feels almost like a henchman on the side. He doesn't create that threat. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who can create the necessary pain and draw it out from Supergirl. This movie deserved like a big battle cry at the climax of it. But again, Supergirl, it's like we don't get to see her self-actualization, or at least maybe I missed it, but it felt like an afterthought. It's like it happens off screen and the way the editing is done. I don't know. It was disorienting. And then when it comes to Momoa, it's like he only shows up conveniently when he needs to have a quip, be charismatic, and then his character is just gone, and you're like, wait, where did he go? I kind of liked you. The overall feeling of this movie feels like a poorly produced TV episode, and these days, a lot of the comic book movies do feel like that. They feel bland, they feel flat, shadow of what they were at the peak. I just think that the superhero movement in Hollywood, it needs to end. And yeah, I know it doesn't affect me emotionally like it does some reviewers or some people. But yeah, I mean, I've been tired of it for a long time, and I think there's been fatigue for a while from a lot of people, and this movie only feels like confirmation of that. It's a shame because there are some fun elements to this movie and things that I wanted to see what they could have done if they had, a great team behind it. But, I would maybe stream this at most. But that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you're interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.